Have you ever played a time trial driving game before? What I mean is a driving game where you're driving on a track just like a racing game, but you're the only one on the track and you just compare your completion times to find out who got first and who didn't. I hadn't played anything from this type of genre of driving game until this past week. The only genre that I know of that does this, which I'm sure there are others I don't know about, is the WRC World Rally Championship Series. This week was my first entry into the series, though I have done quite a bit of research about the other games. So let's get down to it. Here is my official review of WRC 5. As I said in the introduction, WRC is a series of driving simulators that are based off of time trials. The term driving simulator does make me think of the Gran Turismo series. This is something very different. You don't race against other players on the track at the same time, so the best way to describe this game is a time trial based driving game. When you boot the game, you have single player and multiplayer that you can go through. One thing to note is the multiplayer is only offline ad hoc local multiplayer. This is something of note because the PS Vita version of WRC 4 did have online multiplayer, and the PS3 and PS4 versions of WRC 5 also have online multiplayer. For some reason, the online was taken out for the PS Vita version of this new game. As far as single player is concerned, you have 4 different game modes you can go through. You have Career, which lets you create a driving profile, country of origin, sign a contract with someone with a car, and go through 13 different rallies. You have Quick Stage that lets you just pick a stage, car, weather situation, etc., and just go at it in a race. One thing to note about this while we're talking about weather is that on the European version of the game, the box art said that you have night levels, but in the game you actually don't. So if you're looking at the European box art, or if the North American box art says the same, be wary that there are not any night levels. You can do noon or dawn. The other 2 game modes are Quick Rally, which lets you set up basically like Quick Stage, but actually a flurry of different stages instead of just one. And finally, Rally School is basically an advanced tutorial. Now obviously Career is the most expansive of these game modes. Career, as I said before, lets you create a profile, sign a contract, and drive through 13 different rallies. You go by a calendar, much like you would in a career mode in another sports game like MLB 15 or Madden 13, and as you go through these days, you'll have select races. Some days will only have 1 race, whereas the next day you could have 3 races back to back. Big extensive part of this campaign of sorts is the repair when you race. As you bump into the road, bump into signs, railways, you're going to damage your car. When you damage your car, various parts of it will highlight on your HUD, and when you get back from the race, you'll have to repair those parts. In many parts of the career, due to how volatile some of the tracks are, you won't be able to repair everything, so there's a bit of a strategy element in here. You won't be able to fix everything, so it's a bit of a strategy to be able to think of what you should fix and what you shouldn't fix. Now when you're actually driving, you will have various types of terrain, but this is mostly an off-roads game. All of the tracks you're going to be on are tracks like dirt, gravel, rock, snow. There aren't really any asphalt tracks here. You're all doing off-road stuff. Now when you're actually driving, as I said many times before, you're alone on the track. Your goal is to just stay on the track and finish it in as quick as possible. Whether you're in career mode or in multiplayer mode, your completion time will be compared to your opponents, and that's how you will be scored. One thing I do want to take a note on in the gameplay engine is the physics engine. The physics engine was really implemented well. As you take damage when you're racing, how your car drives will dramatically change based on what part is damaged. The physics engine is actually really extensive, and past the learning curve of doing off-road racing, it's really nicely done. As far as length is concerned, you can put a lot of hours into it, or you can put no hours into it. This is kind of an arcadey game. You could spend about 5, 6, 7, 8 hours in a single career mode, or You could spend 10 minutes with the game just playing a couple quick races and putting it down. It really depends on what you want the game for. It's an arcade game and there aren't really unlockables for you to get. Everything's available from the start, so it's just jumping in and enjoying the experience. One thing I'll note about the controls, you should already know what's coming. I rarely ever mention controls in reviews. The controls work well, but the game does absolutely nothing to tell you how to use them. Now, as far as the presentation is concerned, there are a lot of things we should really discuss here. First of all, the performance is pretty well done. The load times are long, but the frame rate is actually done really nicely. I didn't see any frame dips as I raced through the various levels. So as far as performance is concerned, this isn't a bad Vita game. Now, the rest of the presentation is something to note on. I did note that there were long load times. There are two other things I want to say about the graphics. The graphics are the first thing. If you've played WRC 4, you're going to notice a pretty big difference between 4 and 5. And by a difference, I mean a downgrade. It looks like the graphics engine was severely downgraded, especially with the environments. The cars look just fine. They've got a lot of detail to them. They probably look high-end PS2 quality, maybe quality around Gran Turismo 4. There's a lot of detail on them, but everything else doesn't have very much detail at all. There aren't any lighting or shadowing effects on the environments, and overall, everything but the cars looks like it's PSP quality. This isn't bad, but it's not good for a PS Vita game, especially when WRC 4 looked so much better. The last thing I'll say about the presentation is background music. There is a slider in the options menu for music. When you're racing through the game, there's no music at all. When you're on the title menu and the main menu, you can hear some pretty nice background music, but as soon as you go into a race, dead silence. All you can hear is your co-driver and sound effects. World Rally Championship 5, or WRC 5, is the PS Vita version of the newest WRC game from Big Van Interactive. On the downside, there's no online play, the controls aren't explained to you at all, the graphics have taken a pretty substantial step down, there are very long load times, and there's no background music when you're driving. Now, if you really want a driving sim on the Vita, this is definitely something you can do, but it's not something I would really recommend, especially when the previous game seemed like it was so much better. PlayStation Vita Reviews rates WRC 5 a 5 out of 10, no pun intended. If you would like to comment on this further, feel free to below or head to my site at vitareviews.net.